The chill of the October night seeped through Lily Turner's thin cotton dress as she ran across the prairie, her breaths coming in short, painful gasps. Behind her, the silhouette of the house she'd called prison for the past 2 years disappeared into the darkness. Ahead lay nothing but the vast, unknown territory of Wyoming. 1878, but anything was better than one more night under Charles Thornton's cruel hand. Blood trickled down her temple where he'd struck her with his signet ring, the final act of violence that had given her the courage to flee. She clutched a small bundle containing what few possessions she'd managed to grab: a hairbrush, a locket from her mother, and the meager savings she'd secretly accumulated over months of selling eggs at market. Lily stumbled through the tall prairie grass, her legs burning with exhaustion. She'd been walking for hours, guided only by the silver light of a 3/4 moon. The vast Wyoming landscape offered no shelter, no comfort, only exposure to the elements and to anyone who might be searching for her. Charles would be looking by morning. As a wealthy cattle baron with connections throughout the territory, he'd ensure there would be nowhere for her to hide. Their marriage had been one of convenience for him. At 22, she'd been desperate after her parents' death, and he'd seemed kind, stable. The charming facade had crumbled the day after their wedding. Lily shivered violently, the late autumn air biting through her clothing. She'd been a fool to run without proper attire, but there had been no time to plan once Charles had passed out from whiskey. The opportunity had presented itself, and she'd taken it. A distant howl sent fresh fear coursing through her veins. Wolves. The sound came again, closer this time. Lily quickened her pace despite her aching feet and the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. Then she saw it, a faint orange glow in the distance. A campfire. She hesitated, torn between the desperate need for warmth and the fear of who might be tending those flames. But the cold was becoming unbearable, her fingers already numb. Decision made, she changed course toward the light. As she drew closer, she could make out the silhouette of a covered wagon and a single horse tethered nearby. A man sat beside the fire, his back to her, hat pulled low. The scent of coffee and beans drifted on the night air, making her stomach clench painfully. Lily approached cautiously, but a twig snapped beneath her foot. The man spun around instantly, rifle raised and ready. "Who's there?" His voice was deep, steady. "Show yourself." Lily froze, hands raised in surrender as she stepped into the circle of firelight. "Please," she whispered. "I mean no harm." The stranger lowered his rifle slightly but remained wary. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps 25, with a strong jaw shadowed by several days' growth of beard. His eyes, a striking blue even in the dim light, widened as they took in her appearance. "Madam," he said, setting aside his rifle, "you're bleeding." Lily's hand went to her temple, coming away sticky with half-dried blood. "It's nothing," she murmured, suddenly light-headed. The world tilted sideways and she swayed on her feet. In an instant, he was beside her, strong hands steadying her before she could fall. "Easy now," he said, his voice gentler than before. "Come sit by the fire." He guided her to a log near the flames and disappeared briefly into his wagon, returning with a wool blanket that he wrapped around her trembling shoulders. The sudden warmth made her eyes sting with tears. "Name's Blake Morrison," he said, pouring coffee into a tin cup. "Heading to Laramie with supplies." He handed her the steaming drink. "Now, you want to tell me what's got a lady wandering the prairie at night with a head wound?" Lily's fingers curled around the warm cup. "My name is Lily Turner," she said, then hesitated. If she told him about Charles, would he feel obligated to return her? The law would side with a husband over a runaway wife. "I'm trying to reach my sister in Montana." Blake studied her face, his expression making it clear he didn't fully believe her story. "That's a mighty long journey for a woman alone," he said finally, "especially one running from something." Lily stiffened. "I didn't say I was running. You didn't have to." Blake gestured to her disheveled appearance. "No luggage but that small bundle traveling at night, that mark on your face that doesn't look like any accident I've ever seen." He paused, his voice softening. "Is there a husband looking for you, Mrs. Turner?" The direct question startled her into honesty. "Yes," she whispered. "But I can't go back. He'll kill me next time." Blake nodded slowly as if her answer confirmed something he already suspected. "I've got beans warming," he said, changing the subject. "Not fancy, but it's hot. When's the last time you ate?" "Yesterday morning," Lily admitted. While Blake spooned beans onto a tin plate, Lily studied him surreptitiously. He moved with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to life outdoors. His hands were calloused but surprisingly gentle, and despite his rugged appearance, there was something trustworthy in his demeanor. "Are you a cowboy?" she asked, accepting the plate gratefully. Blake's mouth quirked in a half-smile. "Was. Worked cattle for the double-bar outfit north of here for 3 years. Saved enough to buy my own piece of land near Laramie. Heading back there now after picking up supplies in Cheyenne." "And you're traveling alone?" "Just me and Ranger," he said, nodding toward the horse. "Prefer my own company most days." Lily ate slowly, savoring each bite of the simple meal. "I should go," she said when she'd finished, though everything in her rebelled at the thought of leaving the fire's warmth. "I've imposed enough." "And go where exactly?" Blake asked reasonably. "Middle of nowhere, no horse, no proper gear." He shook his head. "You'd be dead by morning from exposure if the wolves don't get you first." "I can't risk staying in one place," Lily said, her voice tight with fear. "Charles, my husband, has men all over this territory. If they find me—" "They won't be looking tonight," Blake pointed out. "And tomorrow I'm heading northwest. If your sister's in Montana, as you say, that's the direction you need to go anyway." Lily hesitated. Could she trust this stranger? Yet what choice did she have? "You'd take me with you, far as Laramie at least," Blake said. "After that, we can figure something out. Train maybe, once we're far enough from your husband's reach." Relief washed over her, so intense she could barely speak. "Why would you help me? You don't know me." Blake poked at the fire, sending sparks dancing into the night sky. "Let's just say I've seen what men like your husband can do. My mother—" He trailed off, then cleared his throat. "No one deserves that kind of life." Lily pulled the blanket tighter around herself, overwhelmed by his kindness. "Thank you," she whispered. "Get some rest," Blake said, nodding toward the wagon. "There's a bedroll inside. We'll head out at first light." Despite her exhaustion, Lily felt uneasy about taking his bed. "I can sleep out here by the fire." "No, madam," Blake said firmly. "I'll keep watch out here. You take the wagon. Door latches from the inside if you're worried." The simple consideration acknowledging her fear without judgment nearly undid her. Lily nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat, and made her way to the wagon. Inside, the small space was neat and orderly. A bedroll lay on a narrow platform, and various supplies were carefully secured against the walls. Lily sank onto the bedroll, pulling Blake's blanket tighter around her shoulders. For the first time in years, she felt something like safety. Dawn broke with a pale, watery light. Lily woke disoriented, momentarily panicked until she remembered where she was. The events of the previous night came rushing back her escape, the long, desperate walk through the darkness, finding Blake's camp. She sat up, wincing at her stiff muscles, and peered through a small window in the wagon. Blake was already awake, tending to his horse and preparing what looked like breakfast. Guilt pricked at her. He'd likely spent the entire night outside in the cold because of her. Lily quickly tidied her appearance as best she could with her small hairbrush, wishing for clean clothes and a proper wash. When she emerged from the wagon, Blake looked up from the fire where coffee was brewing. "Morning," he said. "Sleep all right, better than I have in years," Lily admitted. "Thank you for the wagon. You didn't have to stay outside," Blake shrugged. "Been sleeping under the stars since I was 15. Makes no difference to me." He handed her a cup of coffee. "We should get moving soon. Your husband likely to start looking once he realizes you're gone." "If he hasn't already," Lily said, her stomach twisting with anxiety. "Charles is influential. He has connections with the sheriff, the bankers, most of the ranchers in the area. His temper is legendary, but people look the other way because of his money." Blake's expression hardened. "Men like that think they own everything and everyone. What's his full name?" "Charles Thornton," Lily said. "He owns the Double T Ranch." Blake's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. "Thornton, the cattle baron," Lily nodded, a chill running through her at his reaction. "You know of him?" "Know of him. Half the territory does. He's been buying up land all around Laramie, forcing out smaller ranchers." Blake rubbed his jaw thoughtfully. "This complicates things. If we're heading straight into his territory." "I didn't think of that," Lily said, dismayed. "Maybe I should go another direction." "No," Blake said firmly. "We'll just need to be more careful. Thornton doesn't know me personally. I worked for a competing outfit, but we'll need a story for why we're traveling together." He hesitated. "The simplest would be to pose as husband and wife." Lily felt heat rise to her cheeks. People would believe that. Why wouldn't they? Young couple heading to start a new life. It happens every day out here. He studied her face. "Unless the idea makes you uncomfortable." "No," Lily said quickly, perhaps too quickly. "It makes sense. It would explain why I'm with you." Blake nodded, seemingly satisfied. "We should get your face cleaned up properly before we head out." He fetched a canteen and a clean handkerchief, then hesitated. "May I?" At Lily's nod, he gently dabbed at the cut on her temple. His proximity made her heart race in a way that had nothing to do with fear. It had been so long since a man had touched her with gentleness that she'd forgotten such a thing was possible. "It's not as bad as it looked last night," Blake said, his breath warm against her skin. "Head wounds always bleed something fierce. Don't think it'll scar." "Would it matter if it did?" Lily asked bitterly. "One more to add to the collection." Blake's hand stilled, his eyes meeting hers. The compassion she saw there threatened to unravel her completely. "No man has the right to mark you," he said quietly. "Not ever." They broke camp quickly after that, Blake efficiently packing his supplies while Lily helped as best she could. Within an hour they were ready to depart. "You ever ride before?" Blake asked, nodding toward Ranger. "I grew up on a small farm," Lily said. "Nothing fancy, but I can ride." "Good. You'll ride Ranger and I'll lead him. We'll make better time that way and it'll be easier on you." Lily wanted to protest that she could walk, that she'd already imposed enough, but Blake's expression brooked no argument. He helped her mount, his hands strong and steady at her waist, then handed her the bundle of her possessions. "We'll stick to less traveled routes," he explained as they set off. "Take us longer to reach Laramie, but safer that way. 4, maybe 5 days' journey." 5 days. Lily tried to imagine 5 days in this man's company, 5 days of his quiet strength and unexpected kindness. 5 days before they reached Laramie, and she would need to decide what came next. They traveled steadily through the morning, Blake walking beside the horse, occasionally pointing out landmarks or wildlife. The landscape was stark but beautiful, rolling hills covered in golden autumn grass, the distant mountains a blue haze on the horizon. By midday, Lily was acutely aware of how much Blake had slowed his journey for her sake. "You could be covering twice this distance if you were alone," she said as they stopped to rest and water the horse. Maybe, Blake acknowledged, but I'm in no particular hurry. He offered her a strip of dried beef and a biscuit from his provisions. Besides, company's not unwelcome. Gets lonely on the trail. Have you always traveled alone? Blake sat on a fallen log, pushing his hat back to reveal sun-streaked brown hair. Last few years, yes. Before that, I rode with trail crews moving cattle. Wasn't bad work, but I wanted something of my own. The land near Laramie. 160 acres, he said, a note of pride in his voice. Nothing grand, but good grazing land with a creek running through it. Got a small cabin built last spring, hoping to have a proper herd within a few years. It sounds wonderful, Lily said sincerely. A place that's truly yours. That's the dream. Blake studied her for a moment. What about you? Before Thornton, what did you want for your life? The question caught Lily off guard. It had been so long since anyone had asked what she wanted. I suppose I wanted what most girls do: a home, family, children. Simple things. She twisted her hands in her lap. My parents died of fever when I was 20. The farm was heavily mortgaged. Charles seemed like salvation at the time. And now? What do you want now? To be free, Lily said immediately. To never fear raising my voice or expressing an opinion. To sleep through the night without wondering if I'll be dragged from my bed for some imagined slight. She took a shaky breath. Beyond that, I hardly know any more. Blake nodded slowly. Freedom's a good place to start. They continued their journey through the afternoon, the rhythm of travel settling between them. By evening, they had covered a respectable distance, and Blake found a sheltered spot near a small stream to make camp. You're good at this, Lily observed as she watched him efficiently set up their camp. Finding safe places, knowing which way to go without a map, Blake smiled. Been living outdoors most of my life. You learn to read the land. He nodded toward the stream. If you want to wash up a bit, I'll keep my back turned. Water's cold, but it might feel good after riding all day. The opportunity to clean off the dirt and dried blood was too tempting to refuse. Once Blake had turned his attention to gathering firewood, Lily knelt by the stream, using her handkerchief to wash her face and hands. The cold water was shocking but refreshing. She even managed to rinse some of the dust from her hair, combing it with her fingers before rebraiding it. When she returned to camp, Blake had a small fire going and was preparing a more substantial meal than the night before: a rabbit he'd shot along the way, with wild onions and the last of his potatoes. You look better, he said, glancing up at her approach. How's the head feeling? Better, Lily said, touching the small cut. Everything feels better, actually. Blake nodded, seemingly pleased. Good. Another few days and you'll be well out of Thornton's immediate reach. Laramie's a decent-sized town. You could find work there, or catch the train further north if you're set on Montana. The reminder of their imminent parting sent an unexpected pang through Lily's chest. Yes, I suppose I could. They ate in companionable silence as darkness fell around them. After dinner, Blake pulled a worn deck of cards from his saddlebag. Know any games? Might help pass the time, Lily smiled. My father taught me poker, though I'm not sure what we'd wager. How about stories? Blake suggested. Winner asks the loser a question, anything they want to know. The game began innocently enough, with simple questions when one or the other won a hand. Lily learned that Blake was the youngest of 3 brothers, that he'd left home at 15 after his father died, that his favorite food was apple pie. In turn, she told him about growing up on a small farm in Missouri, about her love of reading, about the little sister who had died in childhood. With each exchange, the space between them seemed to shrink, the firelight creating an intimate world of just the two of them. Last hand, Blake said as the fire burned low. Getting late. Lily won with a pair of kings, and a question immediately sprang to her lips. Why did you really help me? The truth. Blake set his cards down slowly. The truth. He stared into the flames for a long moment. My mother was married to a man like your husband. Mean when he drank, meaner when he didn't. She ran once, took us kids with her. A stranger helped us, gave us shelter for a night, food, a little money. His voice grew rough with emotion. Wasn't enough. My father found us, brought us back. Beat her so bad she couldn't leave her bed for weeks. I'm sorry, Lily whispered. She died when I was 14, just gave up. Blake looked up, meeting Lily's eyes across the fire. So when I saw you standing there last night, bleeding and scared but still standing, I couldn't turn you away. Couldn't be one more person who failed to help. Something shifted between them in that moment, a recognition, a deeper understanding. Lily reached across the space between them and placed her hand over his. Thank you for telling me. Blake's fingers curled around hers, warm and strong. We should get some sleep. Long day tomorrow. That night, despite Lily's protests, Blake again insisted she take the wagon while he slept outside. As she lay in the darkness, listening to the night sounds of the prairie, she found herself thinking about him, his quiet strength, his unexpected gentleness, the pain he carried from his past. For the first time since her desperate flight, Lily allowed herself to think beyond mere survival to what might come after. The next day brought clouds and the threat of rain. They broke camp quickly and traveled at a steady pace, Blake seeming more vigilant than before. There's a trading post about half a day's ride from here, he explained as they set out. We'll need to stop for supplies, but we should be careful. Place like that, news travels. If Thornton's men are looking for you, they might have spread the word. Perhaps I should wait somewhere while you go in, Lily suggested. Blake shook his head. Better if we go together, playing our parts, husband and wife passing through, less suspicious that way. He glanced up at her on the horse. If anyone asks, we're the Morrisons, heading to my cousin's place near Laramie where I'll be working as a ranch hand. The Morrisons, Lily repeated, testing the name on her tongue. Mrs. Morrison. It sounded nothing like Mrs. Thornton, a name she had come to dread hearing. Just stay close to me, let me do the talking, Blake said. And if you see anyone you recognize, I'll tell you immediately, Lily promised. By midday, the clouds had thickened and a fine drizzle began to fall. Blake helped Lily into his duster coat, ignoring her protests that he would get soaked. Wool shirts are better than cotton dresses in the rain, he said practically. Besides, can't have my wife catching a chill, can I? Lily felt a strange flutter in her stomach at his words, even knowing they were part of their charade. The coat enveloped her in warmth and the scent of him leather, wood smoke, and something indefinably masculine. The trading post appeared on the horizon by mid-afternoon, a sturdy log building with a few horses tethered outside. As they approached, Blake helped Lily down from Ranger, his hands lingering at her waist a moment longer than necessary. Ready, Mrs. Morrison? He asked quietly. Lily nodded, suddenly nervous. Ready. Blake offered his arm and she took it, trying to appear natural and at ease as they entered the trading post. Inside, the space was warm and crowded with goods, barrels of flour and sugar, shelves of canned goods, tools hanging from the walls, and a glass case displaying more valuable items. A gray-haired man looked up from behind the counter. Afternoon, folks. What can I help you with? Need to resupply, Blake said easily. Heading to Laramie. While Blake discussed provisions with the shopkeeper, Lily wandered the store, examining the goods. She paused at the glass case, her eye caught by a simple silver band, a woman's wedding ring. Admiring the jewelry, madam. The shopkeeper called over. Before Lily could respond, Blake was beside her. "Seems my wife lost her wedding band crossing a stream a few days back," he said smoothly. "Been feeling terrible about it, haven't you, darling?" Lily managed a smile, falling into the role. "It was my grandmother's," she improvised. "I've been heartbroken." The shopkeeper nodded sympathetically. "Well now, that's a shame. That silver band there is a fair piece, not fancy but solid craftsmanship. $2. Blake examined the ring thoughtfully. "What do you think, Lily? Would it do until we can replace your grandmother's properly?" The intimacy of the moment, Blake choosing a ring for her, even as part of their pretense, made Lily's cheeks warm. "It's lovely," she said softly. "We'll take it," Blake told the shopkeeper, adding it to their purchases. As the man wrapped their supplies, the door to the trading post swung open, admitting two rough-looking men. Lily tensed immediately, though she didn't recognize either of them. Something about their demeanor put her on alert, the way they surveyed the room, their weathered faces hard and assessing. Blake noticed her reaction and subtly positioned himself between Lily and the newcomers. "Nearly done here," he said to the shopkeeper, his voice casual but his posture alerting Lily to his own wariness. "Say," one of the men said, approaching the counter, "you folks seen a woman traveling alone? Young, light brown hair, might be injured. Name's Lily Thornton." Lily felt the blood drain from her face. Blake's hand found hers behind the counter, squeezing gently in reassurance. "Can't say we have," the shopkeeper replied. "What's she done?" "Run off from her husband," the second man said, his eyes scanning the store before landing on Lily with mild interest. "Charles Thornton, you might know the name, offering a $100 reward for information leading to her return." $100, the shopkeeper exclaimed. "Must want her back something fierce." "She's his wife," the first man said, as if that explained everything. "Got some notion about heading to Montana, but she could be anywhere by now. If you see her, there's a telegraph office in Bitter Creek. Send word to the Double T Ranch." "We'll keep an eye out," the shopkeeper promised. "Ain't seen any women traveling alone lately, though." He nodded toward Lily and Blake. "Just this young couple passing through." The men's attention shifted fully to Lily, who kept her eyes downcast, grateful for the shadow cast by her bonnet. Blake's arm came around her waist in a possessive, husbandly gesture. "We best be going," he said. "Storm's coming in and we want to make a few more miles before nightfall." The men stepped aside, still watching them. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs as Blake guided her toward the door, their purchases tucked under his arm. "Hold up," one of the men called as they reached the threshold. "What did you say your name was, mister?" Blake turned, his expression neutral. "Didn't say. It's Morrison." "Blake Morrison. My wife and I are heading to Laramie to work my cousin's ranch." The man studied them a moment longer, then nodded. "Safe travels." Outside, Blake helped Lily onto Ranger quickly, his movements controlled but urgent. They departed at a pace just shy of suspicious haste. Only when the trading post had disappeared behind them did Blake speak. "They were looking for you." "Yes," Lily whispered, her hands trembling. "Charles must be offering rewards all over the territory." $100 would tempt a lot of folks," Blake said grimly. "We need to be more careful, stick to even less traveled routes." "Those men didn't seem convinced," Lily said anxiously. "What if they follow us?" "Then we'll deal with it," Blake said with quiet determination. "But I think we're all right for now." "Your hair was mostly covered, and they were looking for a woman alone, not a married couple." They rode in tense silence for several miles, Blake scanning the trail behind them periodically. The rain intensified, turning the path muddy and slowing their progress. By late afternoon, they were both soaked and chilled. "We need to find shelter," Blake said finally. "This rain isn't letting up, and traveling at night in this weather is asking for trouble." They diverted from their planned route, heading toward a stand of trees in the distance that Blake thought might offer some protection. As they drew closer, they discovered something better: an abandoned line shack, likely used by cowboys during roundup when they were far from the main ranch. The small cabin was crude but sound, with a stone fireplace and a plank floor. A rusty cot stood in one corner, and a rough table with a single chair occupied the center of the room. "It's not much," Blake said as he helped Lily down from Ranger, "but it'll keep us dry." While Lily explored the cabin, Blake tended to Ranger, making sure the horse was sheltered beneath the cabin's small overhang. Inside, he quickly got a fire going in the fireplace, using dry wood stacked beside it. "Previous occupants left us a gift," he said, nodding toward the woodpile. "We're in luck." As the fire spread warmth through the small space, Lily removed Blake's duster, now sodden with rain. "Your coat is ruined," she said apologetically. "It'll dry," Blake assured her, taking it and hanging it near the fire. "Your dress is soaked through too, you should." He hesitated, color rising in his cheeks. "You'll catch your death if you stay in wet clothes." Lily knew he was right, but the practical matter of changing presented a challenge. The cabin was barely large enough for the two of them, with no separate rooms or privacy screens. Reading her dilemma, Blake cleared his throat. "I'll step outside while you change. Wrap yourself in the blanket from my pack. It stayed dry in the center." Once alone, Lily quickly removed her wet dress and petticoat, hanging them near the fire to dry. Wearing only her chemise and drawers, she wrapped herself in Blake's blanket, the wool rough but warm against her skin. "You can come in," she called, settling on the floor near the fire. Blake entered, carrying more firewood. His own clothes were nearly as wet as hers had been. "Fire should last the night now," he said, carefully avoiding looking directly at her. "You need to change too," Lily said. "I can step outside." "No need for you to go back in the rain," Blake said. "Just turn your back a moment." Lily obediently faced the fire, listening to the rustle of wet clothing being removed. Her imagination painted vivid pictures of what was happening behind her, bringing a flush to her cheeks that had nothing to do with the fire's heat. "Decent now," Blake said after a few minutes. Lily turned to find him in dry trousers and an undershirt, his usual flannel shirt hanging beside her dress. The thin cotton revealed the contours of his chest and arms, the strength that she had felt when he helped her mount and dismount Ranger. They sat on opposite sides of the fire, an awkward silence stretching between them. The small cabin suddenly felt much smaller, the awareness of each other's partial state of undress charging the air between them. "You were quick thinking at the trading post," Lily said finally. "I nearly gave us away when those men came in." "You did fine," Blake assured her. "Though I'm sorry about the ring. Didn't mean to put you on the spot." The ring. In the rush to leave, Lily had almost forgotten. Blake reached into his pocket and withdrew the simple silver band. "Not sure what to do with it now," he said with a self-conscious laugh. "Seemed like a good idea at the time to support our story." "It was clever," Lily said, "and I appreciate the thought even if it was just for show." Blake studied the ring in his palm. "Funny thing is, it wasn't entirely for show." He looked up, meeting her eyes across the fire. "I mean, obviously we're not actually, but I wanted you to have it, as a symbol maybe, of your freedom, of a new start." Lily's breath caught in her throat. "Blake." "You don't have to wear it," he added quickly. "I just thought I'd like to," Lily interrupted softly, "if you're offering." The firelight danced across Blake's features as he processed her words. Slowly, he moved to her side of the fire, kneeling before her. Without speaking, he took her left hand and slid the silver band onto her finger. The moment felt weightier than their pretense required, more significant than a practical deception. Blake's fingers lingered on hers, his eyes searching her face. "It fits," Lily whispered. "So it does," Blake agreed, his voice equally soft. Neither moved away. The rain drummed on the cabin roof, the fire crackled, and something unspoken hung in the air between them. Blake's gaze dropped to her lips, and Lily found herself leaning forward, drawn by a force as inevitable as gravity. Their lips met in a gentle, questioning kiss. Blake's hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb brushing the fading mark where Charles had struck her. The tenderness of the gesture brought tears to Lily's eyes. When they parted, Blake rested his forehead against hers. "I didn't plan this," he murmured. "Didn't expect to feel this way." "Neither did I," Lily admitted. "I was running away, not running toward anything, but now." "Now," Blake prompted. "Now I'm wondering if maybe I was running toward something after all, toward the possibility of this." She gestured between them. "Whatever this is becoming." Blake smiled, the expression transforming his serious face. "I'd like to find out if you would." "I would," Lily said simply. They spent the night talking beside the fire, sharing stories, hopes, and fears. Blake told her more about his land near Laramie, his plans to build a proper ranch house someday. Lily spoke of her dreams before Charles of having a garden, perhaps teaching children to read and write. "You could do that in Laramie," Blake suggested cautiously. "The town's growing." "They'll need teachers." "Is that an invitation to stay?" Lily asked, equally careful. "It could be, if you wanted it to be." The rain continued through the night, but neither of them minded. They dozed intermittently, Lily's head resting on Blake's shoulder, his arm around her waist. By morning their clothes were dry, and the rain had slowed to a drizzle. "We should reach Laramie in 2 more days," Blake said as they prepared to depart. "Longer than I planned, but safer this way." Lily nodded, fingering the silver ring she now wore. It wasn't a proposal, not yet, but it was a promise of possibilities. For now, that was enough. They traveled more cautiously after the encounter at the trading post, avoiding settlements and keeping to less traveled trails. Blake taught Lily how to watch for signs of other travelers, how to move quietly through the wilderness. At night, they made camp in sheltered locations, sharing blankets for warmth and speaking in hushed voices about the future. On the afternoon of the 5th day, they crested a ridge and Blake pointed to a valley below. "Laramie," he said, "and beyond it my land." Lily took in the sight the small town nestled at the base of the mountains, smoke rising from chimneys, the glint of the river winding beside it. It looked peaceful, welcoming. "What happens now?" she asked, the question encompassing far more than their immediate plans. Blake turned to her, his expression serious but warm. "Now we ride into town, get you some proper clothes and supplies. Then, if you're willing, I'd like to take you to see my place." He hesitated. "It's small and rough still, nothing fancy like you probably had with Thornton, but it's mine. Could be ours in time." "Are you asking me to stay with you, Blake Morrison?" Lily asked, her heart racing. "I'm asking you to consider it," he said carefully. "To give us time to know each other properly, without the pressure of the trail or the fear of pursuit. And then, if you find you can care for me as I already care for you." He took her hand, the one wearing his silver ring. "I'd ask you to be my wife, for real this time." Tears welled in Lily's eyes, but they were tears of hope, not fear. "I'd like that," she said. "Very much." Blake's smile was like sunrise breaking over the mountains. He leaned down from his position beside Ranger and kissed her, a promise sealed between them. "Then let's go home, Lily," he said softly. "Together." 3 months later, on a crisp January morning in 1879, Lily Turner became Lily Morrison in a small ceremony in the Laramie church. She wore a new blue dress and carried winter evergreens, the silver band on her finger, now joined by a gold one that Blake had saved for weeks to purchase. News had reached them that Charles Thornton had remarried, a wealthy widow from Cheyenne. His interest in his runaway first wife apparently diminished once he'd found a new target for his cruelty. Though Lily still sometimes woke from nightmares of her time with Charles, Blake was always there, his steady presence a reminder that the past no longer held power over her. Their cabin had been expanded with a proper bedroom and a larger kitchen where Lily made preserves from the wild berries that grew on their land. Blake's small herd of cattle was growing, and they'd added chickens and 2 milk cows. In the spring, Lily would plant the garden she'd always wanted, and in the fall, she would begin teaching the children of neighboring ranchers 3 days a week. It wasn't the life either of them had envisioned years before, but as they sat together on their porch watching the winter sunset, Lily knew it was better than any dream she could have imagined. Blake's arm around her shoulders was strong and gentle, like the man himself, the cowboy who had wrapped her in a blanket beside his fire and, in doing so, had given her not just warmth but a new beginning. "Happy?" Blake asked, pressing a kiss to her temple where once there had been a wound. Lily leaned into his embrace, free from fear at last. "More than I ever thought possible," she answered, and knew it was the simple truth.